Good morning. It is Wednesday, January 23rd, 2019. And for fair warning, the roads are a little bit slick today, so if you see a lot of pauses while I'm talking, more so than normal, it's because I'm concentrating on the road, or rather I should be. I wanted to get in on this whole Covington Catholic School MAGA kid hoopla. And I'll be honest, I recorded a video on Monday, but I didn't upload it because I wasn't 100% happy with it. And I'm actually kind of glad that I didn't, because something that I thought was only going to last a 24-hour news cycle has turned into the story of the month, or the story of the week at the very least. It's now almost the end of the week, or middle of the week, since it happened, and they're still talking about it, and things are still forward like this is some huge controversy. And unless you've been living under a rock, you know what's going on. Some kids in Washington, D.C. from Covington Catholic School in Kentucky were standing waiting for their bus. They're being verbally accosted by the black Hebrew Israelites, who were saying all sorts of terrible things to them. So they started engaging in one of their school chants. It's one of their like pep rally type chants, right? And then this Nathan Phillips, also known as Nathan Standar, he comes up drumming in one of the kids' faces, or he comes up to the crowd, banging his drum. And he stops right in front of this one kid and starts banging the drum right in his face, like inches away from his face. And the 2 minutes of video that I saw were basically just him standing in front of this kid, and this kid smiling goofily. Now, people are calling it a smirk. People are saying that, you know, in that smirk there is so much. They are inferring so much, so much animus and so much bad thinking and bad thoughts, and just the vitriol associated with that smirk. It's like from Orwell's 1984, where they talked about face crime. There's a passage in Orwell's 1984 where if you had the wrong expression at a particular event and somebody caught sight of it, you could be charged with a face crime. And this is essentially what the public, you know, the court of public opinion did, like instantly. Now, here's the thing. I didn't get this video footage, this 2-minute thing on Twitter. Or maybe it was even a 1-minute clip. I don't know. I didn't get it on Twitter. I didn't get it on Facebook. The first place I saw it was on 4chan. And all it was just the footage. It wasn't any tweet, it wasn't any commentary, it wasn't any Facebook post, it wasn't any of that. It was just the footage. And so I watched the footage and I'm like, okay, whatever. And then I go to Facebook and I see it there as well. And I see it posted on a group called the Liberalists. And the narrative that was even being put forward on the Liberalists was, these kids are a bunch of assholes. And I'm like, I don't get it. What's the big deal? It's a bunch of teenage kids laughing and having a good time while a Native American plays the drum. What's the issue? So it's as though people, if they had seen just the footage, they wouldn't have thought anything of it. But because a narrative was manufactured about this kid smirking, and this kid, you know, this group of kids coming and crowding around this native, which is not what happened, that's why people got outraged. And now, even if that were the case, I'd be like, okay, so they're a bunch of kids being dicks. But it turns out the opposite is true. That this Nathan guy, this veteran, because it turns out he's not even a veteran of any war. He was in the military, went AWOL several times, got a dishonorable discharge, and never set foot in Vietnam. Turns out he was a refrigerator technician with the Army. That's it. So every bit of this narrative was false. And now it turns out, from what I saw on a Tim Pool video, that the original Twitter account that shared it with the mainstream media, turns out it was a bot account. It was a bullshit account. It was a made-up account. And so now there's speculation that this is a PSYOP, that this whole thing was a PSYOP to, sow division in the United States. And the American media, the mainstream media, played right along. I don't know if it's a PSYOP from a foreign government or it's an American PSYOP trying to cause a breakdown of civility and cause the, as Tim Pool calls it, the Civil War, the next Civil War. I don't know if it's going to be a civil war, but this may spark a national divorce. I don't anticipate that folks on the right are going to take too much more of this shit before things get bloody, and I don't want that to happen. For the last 2 years, anytime someone's worn a MAGA hat in public, they've been harassed or had the shit knocked out of them. Or anybody who's been, even loosely associated with Republicans or the president has been harassed or accosted or, outrightly physically mobbed or physically assaulted. So, I guess the point is, things are getting darker and darker in the United States, and I'm surprised. I mean, I shouldn't be surprised because it always starts with the silliest thing. That it has to do with a smirking kid. I don't even want to call it a smirk. He's got more an awkward, goofy smile than anything else. And the worst part about it, the thing that drives me absolutely nuts, is even after this story is revealed to be false, people are so invested in the narrative that these kids are deplorable and awful human beings that they're doubling down. And what's really disgusting is there were out-and-out death threats to these kids and their family, and there were bomb threats to the school on Twitter, mind you. And the executives at Twitter did nothing about it. Whereas Alex Jones, the reason for his banning is he was spreading fake news, and that caused the Sandy Hook families to be harassed. But 16-year-old kids getting death threats? No, that's fine. You can keep your Twitter account. You can keep the blue check mark. Don't worry about it. You're fine. It's a fucked up situation we're in right now, folks, and I don't know what the end is going to be. Civil war? Out and out, violence in the streets between left and right? Between, pussy hats and MAGA hats? Maybe. I don't know. I don't think so. Probably not. It's probably just going to be more, pockets of violence here and there. But the problem with that is if pockets of violence break out, we get something, let's say we get something along the lines of the yellow vests they have in France. What will happen then is the government will clamp down. You want to get tyrants? This is how you get tyrants. Failing to talk about shit, ramping up the rhetoric, and this is where the mainstream media completely fails on this. I watched a clip of the Today Show where this Nicholas Sandman, the kid who was, portrayed as the smirker, the little kid who was, smirking or smiling goofily as Nathan Phillips was beating his drum in his face. The Today Show, this woman is interviewing this 15-year-old kid who, has been the victim of harassment and the victim of, death threats. And they're asking this kid, do you think would you apologize for anything you've done? And thank goodness the kid said, no, I wasn't disrespectful. I wish the whole thing could have gone away. I wish, things didn't get to the point where they did, but, I didn't do anything wrong. Is essentially what he said. I'm not going to apologize for just standing there. He said I had every right to stand there. And I didn't do anything. I didn't harass him. I didn't shout at him. I didn't, So good for him for, standing for his principles, and good for the school for eventually coming out in support of their students. Did these kids behave like dicks? Not especially. They behave like 15-year-old kids. They behave like a bunch of teenagers. They did the Tomahawk Chop gesture, and we're going whoop, whoop, whoop. They were having a good time. They weren't doing it to offend anybody. They weren't doing it to harass anybody. And I'm sorry, but the Tomahawk Chop, that's not a racist gesture. That's a fucking sport team gesture. Okay, they do that at sporting events. Give me a break. Anyway, I just want to get my thoughts out on it. I'm not sure what this is going to mean. Tim Pool seems to think that we're fully in the Civil War now. I don't know if that's necessarily the case, but this may spark a national divorce in the United States. You know, maybe some heads will come and say, you know what, look, it's obvious right now that the left and the right can't get along. Or certain elements of the left and the right can't get along. And I think for those people who just have no time and can't talk and can't even discuss things with their ideological opponents, they need to go somewhere. And same with the people on the right. The people on the right who simply have no ability to engage with their ideological opponents on the left, you all need to go somewhere. I don't know if, you know, California is the place for the left, and you know, Montana or Arizona is the place for the right. I have no idea. Pick some Midwestern state that went, you know, majority red in the 2016 election. And maybe go there and just, you know, cool off for a while. Anyway. It just seems to me that if people don't discuss it, it just causes more animosity. I mean, that's no surprise to anybody. What is it? The war happens when politics breaks down, or something along those lines. I don't know. I'm not good with quotes, but yeah, I just want to get my thoughts out there, and I'd like to get your thoughts on it as well. So you can put your stuff in the comments if you like. And here I am as a Canadian. What does it mean for me? Well, nothing really. I mean, our country's already shit. And as far as I'm concerned, the Conservatives have lost this country. Maybe there'll be a resurgence. But if there were a civil war in the United States, like an out-and-out, you know, secession by the left from the current government, and they say, look, we're forming our own country, the country of transgenderism and identity politics, and they decide to go to war with the right, with, you know, the traditional conservatives, the classic liberals and the libertarians. I don't know, should I grab my 6 guns and go down south and fight on the side of the MAGA hatters? I don't know, the red hatters. I wonder what's easier to target, a red hat or a pink pussy hat. Anyway, thanks for watching the video. Sorry if there were way too many pauses from my driving concentration on the road thing. Actually, I don't think it was that bad today. If you like this video, or you're interested in my channel, please like, subscribe, hit the wee little bell, and there'll be more content eventually. Thanks again. Take care.